It's time to begin. Time to begin.
Brother Ray.
All right, the subject of this lesson this morning, or maybe even for the next couple of weeks possibly, is communication. Communication, we do it every day. We communicate with our spouse, kids, coworkers, each other, communicate with everybody. And we should communicate with God. Now, most of y'all know that I'm a plumber, and there's an entire jargon that we use that if you're not familiar with it, it can be kind of confusing. And I'll even demonstrate. Does anybody know what inches of water column means? All right, not very many people. Well, what that means, basic definition is the amount of pressure it takes to raise a column of water 1 inch. So there are 27.7 inches of water column pressure in 1 psi. So 7 inches of water column, that's about a 1/4 inch psi. So nobody's really going to do that. That's an older real way to measure gas. And I remember the first time I heard it, the master plumber I was working under, he said something about water column, and I'm just thinking, you do not, for any reason, put water in gas pipe. Why? Or is he telling me to do this with water? And I finally had to stop and ask him what was going on, what all that meant. He explained it to me. I thought, okay. We don't use it anymore. We just pressure over there, put this gauge on it. Pretty simple now, but that was the way they used to do it. They also used to use mercury gauges. We don't really do that anymore now either. But anyway, certain things like that are, if you don't know, and I just said, okay, I wouldn't have a clue what I was doing. And but I communicated with him. He explained it, and I thought, probably the only helper in our company that knows what the water column is. But anyway, so as I was doing this lesson, I compiled, I think it's 5 points with a whole bunch of scriptures. So we'll look a bunch of them up. That'll help with communication, whether it's in some cases parental communication, spiritual, marital, or just plain to somebody you see communicating. So anyway, I just say everything together so I didn't lose anything. So I'm gonna tell you a little story. It's kind of humorous, and then that'll help too. All right, the day finally arrives. Forrest Gump dies and goes to heaven. He is met at the pearly gates by St. Peter himself. The gates are closed. However, as Forrest approaches the gatekeeper, St. Peter says, "Well, Forrest, it's certainly good to see you. We've heard a lot about you. I must inform you that the place is filling up fast, and we've been administering an entrance exam for everyone. The tests are fairly short, but you need to pass before you can get into heaven." Forrest responds, "It sure is good to be here, St. Peter. I was looking forward to this. Nobody ever told me about any entrance exam. Sure hope this test ain't too hard. Life was a big enough test as it was." St. Peter goes on, "Yes, I know, Forrest, but the test I have you is only 3 questions. First one, what days of the week begin with the letter T? The second question, how many seconds are there in a year? And 3, what is God's first name?" Forrest goes away to think the questions over, and he returns the next day and goes up to St. Peter to try to answer the questions. St. Peter waves to him and says, "Now that you've had a chance to think the questions over, tell me your answer." Forrest says, "Well, the first one, how many days of the week begin with the letter T? Shucks, that was easy. That'd be today and tomorrow." The saint's eyes open wide, and he explains, "Forrest, that's not what I was thinking, but you do have a point, though. I guess I didn't specify, so I'll give you credit for that answer. How about the next one?" St. Peter, "How many seconds are in a year?" Now, that one's hard, says Forrest, but I thunk about that, and I guess the only answer can be 12. Astonished, St. Peter says, 12? 12? Forrest, how in heaven's name do you come up with 12 seconds in a year? Boy says, shucks, it's gotta be 12. January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd. Hold it, interrupt St. Peter. I see where you're going with this. And I guess I see your point, though it wasn't quite what I had in mind, but I'll give you credit for that one too. Let's go on with the next and final question. Can you tell me God's first name? Voice replied, Andy. Okay, said frustrated St. Peter. I guess I can understand how you come up with your answers to my first two questions. But just how in the world did you come up with the name Andy as God's first name? That was the easiest one of all, Forrest replied. I learned it from that song. Andy walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. St. Peter says, run, Forrest, run. So the point of that story was, they were communicating, but they, for sure, could get it messed up. And we can do that sometimes too. Like I said, I've got several scriptures for this one, but the first thing, understand before you speak. Most of everything will be in Proverbs. If somebody would look up Proverbs 18:13.
He that answered, I already told you here, he is falling ashamed.
My dad used to always tell me, it's better to, how do you say it? Better to keep your mouth shut and look dumb than open your mouth and remove all doubt. So sometimes you think you know what you're talking about, you don't have a clue. I used to have a coworker, I guess really he was my boss, but I always said, go, or no, or whoa. I didn't use the right terms I should have been using. He said, it's going to get you in a bind one day. And I thought, nah, And we were putting this big old piece of plate steel. It's like an inch thick, and it was, 10 foot long, about 6-8 foot wide. It covered this big old, all these big old valve boxes. It's like 10-inch main valves, pipe. And he was trying to lift in with backhoe, and he was trying to set it, and I was just trying to grab a handle to kind of pull it up a little bit to balance it. And I guess it slipped just enough, and I got my hand stuck right between that steel and the concrete there. And in that instant, I didn't say whoa or no or go. I screamed stop. And that's what he'd been trying to tell me. You got to use the right terms. And he was scared, more scared than I was. He thought he'd been cut off my hand. And I'm sitting there thinking, now I've got to tell him how to get this thing off of me, because he can't get off the backhoe. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out how I'm going to tell him so I don't smash all my fingers off. In that story, in that circumstance, I finally understood. You better understand exactly how to say what you mean to say it very effectively, or it's going to be bad for me. So, somebody read Proverbs 15:1. Somebody else, Proverbs 25:11.
The soft answer turns away wrath, but a word of trouble will stir anger. The tongue of the wise will dispense knowledge, but the mouth of fools will pour out folly.
All right. Proverbs 25:11.
Like apples of gold and cents of silver is a ruling right given.
So Proverbs 15:28, 15:7.
The lips of the wise will spread knowledge, but the heart of fools not so.
15:28.
The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. 28.
28.
28.
Okay. The heart, by the
Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. So some of my first one with communication is understand before you speak. And I kind of looked up the different verses and then got a summarizing point. I told you all about, the backhoe and me learning to finally say stop instead of whoa or go. They all sound alike. But the next one would be, what's going on with somebody in their life. So sometimes before you speak, find out what's going on, and to where you know enough about them to be able to see what's going on. Don't jump to conclusions. Like with that plate steel, it's heavy enough that Buck wouldn't get off the backhoe. He was scared that if he even got up and it shifted just a little bit, he'd sever all my fingers. And so I had to sit there and tell him how to pick up that thing so I could get my hand out without like that. And it's, like I said, I think he was more sick to his stomach than I was. Cause we were more coworkers, we were buddies too, so he was maybe pretty nervous. So in that instance, he didn't jump to conclusions. He waited for me to tell him what to do to get that thing off. Sometimes some of this comes with age. You learn some of this stuff as you get older. Your tone, the actual words that you speak, and when you are trying to communicate, speak with love. Don't do it with malice or hate or anger. Cool off if you have to, or do some research, then speak. Most of us are married. You don't go to your wife when you're mad and try to get your point in. Wait till you're both calm and collected, and this is what I was thinking. I know it's different than you, but here's what I was thinking at the time. Any thoughts, questions?
It's really important when raising children too. You need to stop and think a minute when you're about to discipline them instead of at that moment when you're really angry. Makes a difference.
It's true. Anything else? All right. Next one would be communication is like a muscle. Somebody read Proverbs 18:21. And Proverbs 15:17. And 15:17.
Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a fatted ox and hatred with it.
All right. Colossians 2:19 and James 3:8.
Colossians 3:18.
2:19.
Colossians
2:19.
Colossians.
James 3:8 says, but no human being can tame the tongue. This restless evil for the dead part.
You say Colossians
2:19.
and not holding fast to the head, from whom the whole body is supported and held together by the ligaments and sinews, grow with the growth of God.
The points I wanted with this verse or this communication is kind of like a muscle. Sometimes you got to start small and then work it out to get it into shape, you know, and let it grow. You know, you're not gonna start out being a great public speaker or anything like that. You gotta learn your ABCs and slowly grow. Sometimes you just gotta start small. And even when you are in talk and everything, communicate, sometimes still small is better than nothing at all, you know. I can talk to Joel probably for hours, but I can't go meet someone on the street, talk to them for a couple seconds. How are you doing? I'll see you later. That's all I'm gonna do, but I can talk to Joel for hours. So, you know, sometimes that's how it is. And then the one, muscle memory, you know, they say, you know, if you, softball, you have to swing the bat 1,000 times to make your muscles forget one bad swing. It's muscle memory, so the more your communication is going to come out the same way. If you're always negative Nancy, then you're always going to be negative Nancy. You're going to have to work to change that. You got to work out your communication and get it into shape. It's not just going to keep everything bottled up and not talk and not do anything, expect things to change or things to get better. Some people are better at communicating than others. Thoughts, questions, comments? I know in my house, I'm the one that talks the least. Sometimes I don't even know I'm not talking to anybody. But we drove all the way to Dallas to watch this football game. I didn't say a word. Never even noticed I didn't do it. Until we got almost to the game. I said, you know, you haven't said a word for 2 hours. I didn't. Sorry. So now if it's just gonna be me and her, I'm thinking the hours before, what can we talk about? So I need cue cards. Driving to work in the truck, I don't even have the radio on. It's just, I don't hardly talk at all. And when we get there, I can tell my helper or whoever, whatever we're gonna do, that's it. I'm pretty quiet most of the time with that stuff, but anyway. All right. Next point would be avoid overkill. Got a lot of verses for that too, but overkill, you know, sometimes you just don't harp on things. You know, once it's done, you know, like I guess in this case it'd be more like an argument or something you did wrong, but don't harp on it. You know, don't keep bringing it up. You know, when it's done, it's over with. Forgive them and move on. Somebody read Matthew 5:37.
Well, let your statements be yes, yes, or no, no, and anything beyond these is of evil.
Growing up, my dad always told me, you know, he'd quote that one pretty regular. And just, you know, let your yes be yes, your no be no. You don't have to put curse words into a sentence that ever, you know, make a sentence more effective, or you don't have to really do anything. Just say what you need to say and be done with it. I kind of like that verse, but things. But you know, sometimes honestly, less is more. And you don't have to draw out a long story. I mean, we laugh at Peyton, but if she's telling you how her day went, you're going to be there for well over an hour. It takes like 5 minutes to get her from the time she walked out of the car till the first period, 5 minutes into that class. And it's really funny, but Peyton, I don't need the details. I mean, I walked 13 block steps to the teacher's desk, and I got in the classroom, and so was sharpening a pencil, and this guy had on a purple shirt, and I took 4 more steps to turn to my desk, and then something was on there, I had to wipe it off, and then I set my book back down, and oh man, I forgot I need a drink of water, blah, 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 blah. And it's, Peyton, just, you got to your class, that's fine. I don't need to know all the finite details, it's not gonna matter, but that is paid. And
Glad to know we're not the only one.
Hayden could make a 7-hour school day last 18 hours telling the story, but
When they start to tell a story and it's not in real time, it's longer than real time.
I wish she was as fast telling stories she was when she runs, but anyway, that is her to a T. It is hilarious, but it's like, hey, unless I need to know about your tax, we'll know if you had a good day or not. That's really it. So sometimes really less is more. And when she does do that, I have a bad habit. I just tune her out. And it's like, you didn't hear what I said? No, I didn't. What was the one thing I didn't need to know? I'm going to tune it back. So, and then, so sometimes less is more, and then say what needs to be said only. You don't have to add to or make something more detailed than what it has to be. And then when I was thinking of this stuff, I thought about that song "Angry Words." You know, sometimes, like Roger said earlier, we need to cool off before usually dealing with kids or anything. Cool off before you say something that you can't take back and can't regret, or say something that so you don't regret it. There we go.
That's called, you can't unring the bell. Once you ring that bell, it's wrong. If you approach the communication wrong, you never can get this bad communication out of the way to move forward. It's hard. It takes a lot to move forward.
Don't avoid it. You can't avoid communication. I mean, I don't even know I'm doing it sometimes, but I've had to learn over the years of being married that she likes to talk, and I better figure out something we're going to talk about. Sometimes it's funny. I've watched a show called She's the Man, and one of the points in it's girls playing guy soccer or something, and she's trying to tell a guy how to get a girl or something. I don't remember the point, but she started the conversation off, "Do you like cheese?" It's the funniest thing, but every once in a while, if I'm trying to figure out what to say, "Do you like cheese?" And she'll laugh, and there we go. We start a conversation. And as goofy as that sounds, it's worked. So,
Marshall, this verse to me too means also be firm in what you're doing. If you say yes, that's gonna be it. If no is no. Yeah, don't be vacillating, don't be wishy-washy. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. That's it. Sometimes it's hard to do with children. Is it not?
very.
Because they'll work on it.
It's even more with grandchildren.
Yes.
I think it's kind of like chopping a tree down. They just kind of whittle you down slowly. Yes, just go away. Yes, you can do it.
Absolutely.
All right.
I think there's a school for that.
The next one would be, don't avoid communication. Look up a couple verses in Matthew. Somebody look up 2 Timothy 2:16 and 17. Matthew 18:15 and 16 says, "If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take on 1 or 2 others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector." Next one. 23-24. So if you are offering a gift at the altar, remember that your brother has something against you. Leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. So I'll read that, 2 Timothy 2:16 and 17.
But avoid pointless chatter, for it will progress to greater ungodliness. And your message will spread like gangrene, among whom are Hymenaeus and Philetus.
So this point is, don't avoid it. Matthew, it says both places that I read in 18, Matthew 18 and Matthew 5, both, to go to your brother and, fix the problem. And then 2 Timothy, Paul addresses it. He even gives names. We were given guidelines you're not supposed to avoid communication. This is solving a problem or a sin, but we can't avoid communicating with each other. Any thoughts or questions, comments?
A lot of times if you avoid communication, it causes you to harbor a grudge or something that was unnecessary just because you didn't understand where the other person was coming from in the first place.
Mhm.
And you think they had an evil motive about something they did in all innocence. So talking about it can often clear that up.
Right.
Talking to the person and not talking to other people instead. I just tell parents at school, if you have a problem and you don't tell me, how can I fix it? Or you don't know what I did, you only hear a bite of it. So you need to talk to the person instead of putting it all out there for everybody else.
It's true.
Also difference in speaking to and speaking with,
Mhm.
the way you approach it. I know when I was doing safety, it was really hard to get guys sometimes to wear the PPE and do what they're supposed to do. I watch people approach them and just, get all over them. And as soon as they left, they're going to go back to what they were doing. But if you can establish what might happen, in a certain situation, they have their fingers under a load or whatever, we call it get the blood on, get the blood on the ground. We approach it that way sometime and ask them, well, what could happen? If this transpired. So there were a lot more approaches, and they usually would come near doing what you wanted to do. Big difference.
Very true. I know being married, sometimes I can do something I didn't know what I've done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna read her mind. I love her, but I can't read her mind. So you're gonna have to tell me what exactly I did, and then I'm really sorry, but I don't know what I've done. What did I do?
And then you ask what it was, and they say, well, if you have to ask me.
If you don't know it.
Sometimes I just say, I'm sorry, I just woke up today and I did something.
Well, they don't say, I've been trying to teach my daughter this in her new marriage, that they don't say men are from Mars and women are from Venus for no reason. We each have unique talents that we bring to the table. That's why God created us different. And for example, she went out of her way, she thinks, to make supper one night. And so when Michael got home, she said, great, I'll make your plate. And she made his plate and he went in to change. And according to her, he fiddle farts around and he finally gets back in there and they sit down to eat. He takes a bite and instead of saying, oh, honey, thank you so much for making this supper, that she should be doing anyway, he says, this is cold. Well, in her mind, that means he served her cold food and he's mad, and so now she's mad, and I'm like, hey, all he said was it's cold. He didn't say it's your fault, it's my fault. He just got up and went to warm his plate. So we women feel more than men do, and a lot of that's because we raise our little boys to be tough and manly, and you don't feel and you don't cry, and and so you guys get a bad shape because you're brought up not to feel where we feel, and so it is hard.
When she was pregnant with Peyton, she made this new Mexican dish or something. I don't remember what it was. And we're sitting down and we're eating, and I suffered through a whole plate. And knowing that I could eat more than that, I got seconds. And I'm sitting there and she's just kind of picking at it. And finally, somewhere in there, she finally goes, "This just isn't very good, is it?" I said, "No, it sure ain't." But if I'd said that on the first bite, "This is terrible," I wouldn't have had to eat it. I suffered through, so I didn't hurt her feelings. But, and she ain't never made it again. But anyway, I learned right then, if it ain't very good, I'm not eating it, I'm gonna tell her. I learned how to tell her. But, honey, this is, you shouldn't make this one again. No. Can I have cereal? And, that's worse for us. But I think it's her fault. She let me suffer through a whole plate of that stuff.
She's not only less than communicating.
I did. I've gotten several.
But you know,
I will never forget that.
Mark,
Honesty is the best policy, and I'm gonna tell her if it isn't very good anymore.
one of our biggest problems in communication is there's always won't be somebody to give you information, but you gotta have people ready to receive this information. And as James tells us, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger.
Mhm.
If we listen to intent, we can speak, return our communication. And it's just like if you communicate with your children, if you don't get them, if you really need to talk to them about something, if you put them in a room with everything else going on and try to talk to them, their minds are jumping everywhere else. You gotta get them, and then you need to take time to listen to them. And what, after you say what you want to, maybe you don't even need to say, "Tell me what's going on here." But we've got to open our ears and our hearts to listen to what people have to say. And that way we can respond with the proper heart and the proper ways to do that. And it may be just, to us, it may be a point of a needle, but it may be a mountain to them. And if we don't hear that it's a mountain to them, how do we handle it? And if you don't listen right, first off, if you're trying to think of what you're going to respond to the communicator, the one speaking, you're not listening. You've got to listen to the whole fact, and then prepare your mind and your thoughts before you speak. And then it tears down a lot of walls. And it's just like Roger's approach, get the person you talk to. What do you think about this? Where do you stand on this? But we've got to be slow down sometimes. We as old men sometimes want to spout things real quick, expect everybody to listen. Well, sometimes it takes other people had to slow down. We had to slow down for them to catch up with us and our thoughts, because some of us men think way out there. Sometimes we leave a couple of words out that we're trying to communicate. So, and we just need to do what James says: slow down, listen, and then respond, and then let's not turn it to wrath, because it says it's not good for us being children of God to do that, to be righteous. So,
Right.
Marshall, I think sometimes we're not aware, and I watch it coming in the foyer. Our young people, our toddlers, visitors pick up on our facial expressions. Those of us that know each other sometimes just look up and go on. We communicate with all, particularly I'm aware of teenagers, what they pick up on just by the way we look at them. Then they come up to us and they just may want to pat us on the shoulder. They just may want to hi. Well, we might think they're interfering, and they're not. But our unspoken communication, particularly to those younger than us, gives them acceptance or rejection. Look at our baby, our church baby now. He knows we're communicating, and he communicates. And we've got to watch the way we look. They may come in running, happy, ready to go to their class. And if we look at them and frown, what I do wrong? They're very vulnerable, the teenagers in particular. They get enough negatives. They need pluses, and they need warm paths. They may not be a hugger, you may not be either, but your smile can do that. From the time they enter this world until they get old, like me.
It's very true.
Marshall, isn't that what God wants us to do?
Do
Look at our communication with God.
Yeah.
Are you constantly doing things and, to use on, and you're doing this over here, and you know what, God did not speak to me today, He didn't answer my prayer today, He didn't do whatever. Because He wanted us to slow down. And He is talking to us, He is showing us if we slow down. But, and have the quiet time with Him. I enjoy just sitting out in the backyard, there's nothing out there to look at but a bunch of trees. But you hear the crickets, or you hear the tree frogs and stuff. You know, that's God communicating. I mean, these are all things that He's created. And have you ever taken the time now as an adult to say thank you for the things that, you know, we teach our kids this, that, you know, God knows God and God knows. But do we as adults stop and think, you know, and spend some quiet time with God and communicate with Him?
You know, my dad also told me you have 2 eyes and 2 ears, so it's better to listen twice as much as you speak. And I think that's pretty true. And if you grow up, we go fishing with him. We never caught anything. I swear, I don't know how, we never caught hardly anything. And I wanted some dynamite. I wanted to just throw it one time in, catch some fish, and let's go home. I wasn't very patient. Now I can go out and spend all day fishing. Not catch anything, not even get a bite, but as long as nobody's yakking in my ear the whole time, I'm fine. And I think that's, you know, it's enjoyable as you get older, and learning how to.
Hey, Marshall, that's funny, you went to that point with Janet, and I went to eat by ourselves last night. First time in forever without, you know. She said, I don't care, of course, food was good because it was stuff to come. She said, I don't care if the food is any good or not, but it is nice. I said, it is. We could just have a conversation, and it was nice. Sometimes it is good just to sit down and take a look.
We did that, what, Friday night? It was.
We had long intervals of nothing was being said, but it was just,
It's nice.
I was just fine, you know.
Sometimes it's in those quiet moments that you're making the best communication.
Definitely.
I was, the funeral I did this weekend, the mother of the guy that passed away, she didn't have a stroke, but there's something wrong to where she cannot form words. And one sentence might take her 2 minutes to say. And it's a struggle not to finish the sentence for her. And when she does finish the sentence, what you thought she was going to say, not what she said, you know. So you have to hang on every word sometimes and have the patience for somebody to actually say what they're wanting to say and not automatically say, well, I know what they're going to say.
Well, I know Obi's dad, and you know he has a very thick Spanish accent, and thank goodness they finally got that talk text, and he can use that. He can talk that thing. He'll send you a message, and you look at that, and what does this say? And then if you say it the way he would say it, talking to you, the whole sentence makes sense. But them words, all the way they roll, the letters and stuff, his accent, in the world. But it's funny because I was having to read a message one day, and you know, it was fairly long because I'm reading, I'm speaking it like he would say it to me, so I can figure out what he's meaning. My coworker he was just laughing at me, and I was like, "Well, you read it. You tell me what that says." And then he didn't know my father-in-law. He didn't know what he was trying to say, and that's he figured out a way he could communicate with us because he can't spell in English or Spanish very well. So it's very hard to understand what he's saying. Now on the phone, he calls me, I can understand it pretty good, but not through that type of communications until we figure out how to do it. So, the next point would be communicate effectively. I've got a whole bunch of verses, so I'll just read James 1:19 and 20. I'll go ahead and read this Matthew verse, it's already right here.
Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God.
Thank you. Matthew 12:36 says, I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Remember, I forgot now, I'm kind of getting a little rabbit hole, but when I was doing this, I ended up with, I used a whole bunch of communication verses, and I kind of jotted them down to which section I wanted them to go, but there's actually a whole lot in the Bible about communicating. But these two, communicate effectively. I communicate a whole lot different with Obi now than I did when, we first got married. I meant to say that earlier. She is a very good cook, by the way. I can count on one hand how many times I've had some shit I didn't really like. So just meant to throw that out there before I forget again. Yeah. I can't cook, but I think she's a better cook than me. So, communicate effectively. Don't go into something angry. I had trouble with that with dealing with the kids. I'll be mad they've done something. I'm irritated. Logan last Wednesday night playing with the stinking ball. I'd set the ball down, it'd roll, and he'd get it back. And finally, I was ready to take my pocket knife and poke a hole in the ball and flatten the thing and then set it down. But I was so irritated at him that I was ready to just go outside and beat him. And really, after we just take the ball and take it 4 years, left it, and the problem would be solved. But we'll pick up here next Sunday morning.